Welcome back to Arkansas Bigfoot, everybody. Glad to see all of you with us today. Yeah, I promised I'd take you on a little road trip adventure with us, and here we are. We're with our friend Lyle down at his family farm in southwest Arkansas right now, about 30 miles from Texarkana. This area that we're at is a 80-acre plot on one side of the road, and you said there's 160 on the other side. And we walked around this portion of it for a while earlier today and found a couple of possible footprints and some really unusual looking hair that I'll show you guys in a little bit. And just had a fantastic afternoon so far. Got the bonfire going, made a few hot dogs and some coffee, and just hanging out. And Lyle had some stories he wanted to share about some of the experiences that he's encountered down here, and thought we'd just start off with that.
It's all you.
Well, I think the first experience I had was when I was out here hunting. This property here is usually used mainly for hunting now. It used to be a farm for cotton and watermelons 100 years or so back, when my great-great-grandfather first settled it. And since then it's just been used for hunting. And I was out here hunting deer, and noticed that all of a sudden all of the
Did you hear that?
Yeah, I heard that.
That's a young one. We were talking about that earlier.
Well, I noticed that all the squirrels and the birds and everything just went silent. Nothing was moving. There was no sound. Of course, I didn't see any deer either, but that's the first indication that something was out here, and I had no idea what it was at the time. Over the years, I've of course heard things and didn't know what they were until after watching this channel and other channels. I've heard the same noises and learned to recognize them, and it's happened quite frequently. Never knew exactly what was going on until, like I said, just recently.
Just kind of put two and two together after seeing some of the other stuff, huh?
Yes, sir.
One of the interesting stories you were telling me earlier said you'd worked as a volunteer fireman.
Yes.
And this house that's up the road had burnt down, and you were coming past it later. Tell me about that.
Is that right?
Yeah, actually it was at the latter part of the black powder season here in this part of the state, and I was around this, I don't know, I guess around the same time of day, maybe a little earlier, and I passed by the house, and I happened to look in my rear view, and this big fellow was walking across the road behind me, and I turned around and went back to see what it was, if I get in. Of course, I didn't see it, but I sure, caught a whiff of where he'd been. And we found out later from one of the people here that it was their grandfather, if I'm not mistaken. Is that right? The grandfather?
Yeah, we did some communicating here, and we'll cover that. You said that you could see his color, though?
His color was kind of a dark brown, almost black, but his shoulders were kind of a grayish color, and that told me that, of course, he was older, but I didn't know until discussing with these fine people that it was probably because of his age. But
and you said that was what year?
That was back in I believe it was 2007.
Plus or minus. Well, yeah. When we did come out here, we reached out, and it's a fairly large clan that's even right here on this. You said this is 80 acres?
Yes.
Okay. On this closer section that we're in, and the one that chose to reach out called herself Tana, which was just Tana, and it seemed that she had a couple of little ones and was choosing to approach us rather than the usual defensive measures that a mama with babies would take, and I thought that was pretty impressive, truthfully. But as we walked along and were discussing the older one that you'd seen, or the one with the gray on his shoulders, I heard her say, "That's my grandfather." And so I thought it was really interesting how small the world is, and that, you know, sometimes these things are well in line for experience.
Her grandfather apparently knew my grandfather.
Yeah, that's
That's the way it happens, and they kind of bond, and they'll adopt a family that they kind of hang out with, you know, and interact with on some occasions. You grew up here. You said you used to ride your bicycle out here and squirrel hunt and other things, and you've been coming out here since you were little. You ever have any other?
I've never had anything that made me feel uncomfortable or threatened. There's been things that happened that I didn't know what was going on, didn't really understand, and never really paid any attention to until after you know, I've learned a few things to recognize what was going on. You know, on another part of another piece of property that I lived on, a little further down the road down here, we had some encounters where they would come in and I believe would drink out of the water barrels we used for to feed or water our horses with, and they were like, it was picking them up like a giant glass and or cup and drinking them up and setting them back down and go to the next one.
Using a 55-gallon drum like a teacup, huh?
Pretty much. But they would leave a kind of a brown, oily film on top of the water and on the inside of the drum, and I'd have to spray it out. I don't recall smelling anything, but it sure looked nasty and it was sticky.
Yeah, we found similar things on tree trunks where it looked like they'd been sitting across, you know, with their back up against a tree, and that oily residue kind of looked like motor oil that came off of their fur, where they'd sit and rub their back against a tree, maybe scratching an itch or whatever. So I would suspect that's what it's from, is the oil that's on their hair.
We had to move away from that particular piece of property, and it wound up getting sold, and the person that bought it owned a lumber company, and they've gone in and destroyed it. They clear cut it, but while we were there, we had some instances where we could hear them grunting and whooping, and well, the only way I know to describe it is chattering out there in the woods. We thought it might have been one of the neighbor kids that was out there playing and having fun, but it turns out, it wasn't him. But we've still never had anything, even on that piece of property. We've never had anything that was really threatening.
now on another piece of property.
Now, when we moved away from that piece of property that I was just talking to, we moved on the other side of town over here, probably about 2.5, 3 miles away from where that house was. And after we got it set up, it was a mobile home, and we moved it over there and got it set up. And it was probably around June or July. And in the evening, we had a visit, and we had the same unique smell that we had encountered a few years earlier. And of course, not being able to, we could hear them moving around in the trees, but of course couldn't see them. And I So I went back in the house, and all of a sudden there was a loud bang on the side of the mobile home that we were living in, and it felt like it shook the whole thing. And other than that, that's the only thing that has shown any kind of aggression. And I think he, like Kim was saying earlier, he may have just been trying to get our attention. He definitely accomplished that.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were trying to tell you to throw some treats out the door.
Separate.
That was 40 acres on the other side of town.
I don't know. For some reason, I was feeling a different group or different.
It could be because it's on the other side of town.
Interest.
You can see the spread out of the toes and all of it in there.
Is that a male?
See how wide it is, and
a young one.
the sides and the heel are almost the same width, and it spreads out the toes. That's usually a big female. Let's see the toe spread on it.
I wonder if it was slick when she came through, and maybe she grabbed, because it feels like she grabbed with her toes more.
Well, this is all sandy here, and probably came through when it was wetter than it is right now.
Yeah,
because it's kind of settled down into it.
It's from here. It's probably about 5 miles. Maybe not quite that.
Well, I know that when we got out of our vehicles, I don't know, the energy up here was just amazing, and they actually seemed to be almost joyous about us being here. It's probably the most receptivity out of a set of foreign woods that we've received in I don't know how long.
I think they were eager just to see some activity out here, just to have some kind of entertainment or company for a while.
Well, they may have been eager to see Lyle. There's snapping going on around us.
Yeah, earlier today when we walked around, we saw limb structures and some pretty intricate arch work and other things. I'll show you a little bit of that footage.
Lots of
Found these 3 clumps of black hair that are perplexing me, and I'm going to find out what they came from. They're a lot heavier and more coarse than any black bear hair that I've ever seen, and I've hunted black bear for several years. I know what their fur is like, and it's too long to be off of a wild hog.
It's dark brown.
I'll show you guys some images of it, but it's just very, very weird. The texture and the coarseness of it, the length of it. It's not like a standard animal that you would know to be in this part of the country. I mean, you've got deer, you've got turkey, you've got some wild pig, you've got rabbit and squirrel, raccoon, just a little bit of the normal small game stuff.
What I thought was interesting was that we found virtually identical foot track near each
clump of that hair. We found,
and they were what, 10 feet apart or so?
Yeah, I found
maybe
the
more.
One nice footprint, and then a clump of hair within a few feet of it, and then found 2 more footprints. One was pretty good and the other one was washed in, and then there were 2 more clumps of hair just past it. So it was like, you know, they were walking and maybe ripping out tangles out of their hair.
Well, that's
I don't know.
The way
it
the
could
hair
be.
looked. You know, it didn't look like scat. It almost looked like it was matted, maybe with pine tar, or like it had been pulled out.
Something sticky in it, and they'd ripped it out.
I don't know.
Well, it's not unlikely there would be a black bear, because I think the last known black bear that was found in this area was actually in the middle of town, and that was back in I think 2003, and they hauled that off to the Ouachita Mountains. So that's the only thing I
was lost.
Yeah, well, they migrated down, but
Yeah, and speaking of which, you know, the distance you are right here from, say, Texarkana or Falk is roughly 30-35 minutes, and that's about the same distance that we are from our woods to where we go to in the Ouachitas. And the reason I'm bringing this up is the feeling of the energy off of the clan that's out here is very positive. They're eager almost to have some kind of
Interaction.
interaction, or at least have something to watch for entertainment while we're out here messing around tonight. And I'm sure as a kid you probably heard, the monster stories from down around Falk and Boggy Creek. Any of those that you remember? Or you were saying something about finding a cat one time down there.
Yeah, I worked for the Department of Transportation, and part of my job on occasion was to go over to that part of Miller County, and during the construction of I-49, where it crosses Boggy Creek, there was a dead cat that was laying on the side of the road that I happened to notice, and looked like it had a bite taken out of it.
Do you remember roughly how big the bite mark looked on it, or?
Well, I would guess it's probably about the size of a basketball.
Good Lord.
I mean, it looked like an old tomcat, and it was had its whole stomach gone. Maybe a volleyball. Well, it was pretty good size. It was bigger than a human.
Big enough.
Beautiful out here. From what we've seen so far, I've spotted leaners and X's and what looks to be some structures, and I think we even got a little bit of a footprint going on down here in this mud hole crossing. But
that's big. Look. Let me see if I can help point that. So I see the toes up here, and the heels way back here.
You're looking at about 20 inches, 22 inches.
It's pretty good size, and I want to say female.
It's wide.
Oh, look here. It is, and there's a young one with her. Because right here, I've got a heel, and I see toes here, and it's long and lean. I'd say maybe, I don't know, 4, 5. Wow.
If you don't mind, I'd like to walk up there and
I
check
would
out
too,
that
yes.
tree fall and look around it real quick.
Go for it.
This one you were talking about, what came back to me almost immediately. It smells like a granddad.
Stand right there and take a whiff. Right in here.
Little musky.
Can you pick up a little bit of that musky scent right there?
My nose is still kind of clogged up from this.
I've got a nose like a bloodhound. I can. What I'm looking for is to see if there's any place where it looks like it's been kicked out or pushed out, where something has bedded or been sitting inside of this, because this makes a perfect natural hangout.
Feet all the way around it here too.
Well, look here on the inside of this. I'm going to back up so you guys can come around here and see it, but you notice how the pine needles are all fluffed out out here around, like where I'm standing at and where you're at now. But look at how they're so compressed right there.
Especially right up inside.
You can see where that bottom limb broke off, but there's no place around here that I can see where that top one looks like it's been laid. Looks like it's been laid in there.
Drug up into here and shoved up in that.
You're right. You can see where the bottom one came from.
I guess that's a yellow bucket or something back over in there. I can't really tell from here.
Yeah, that's an old hydraulic oil bucket. I need to grab that and pull it out of here.
Look at these leaners. They're just like geometrically aligned to right here in front of us. They're just like it's fascinating to me that they built too much right on the road, so nobody's used this road for a while, have they?
This is no logging road. Nobody hasn't been any activity here about 10 years.
That's a male. And he's probably a little younger than Junior. I'd say about 10. A lot of young ones out here. This is great. Sounds exciting.
Right around this curve
There's
here.
Well, with nobody being here, they've not been shy about leaving trace, you know. Don't. I spent some time on the way here making sure everybody was good. What is it? An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure.
That's when I was asking Tim over the email that if you could communicate with him down here.
Straight ahead of us. I feel like it's not far from where these two little paths meet.
Would he take it to the right, if you're to the right?
You know, a lot of it's up to them, but they're pretty quick to let me know if I'm thinking about how old I was when I'm seeing if they're really good. They're answering. They haven't really introduced themselves. But as I was thinking about clans, I was corrected and got the word tribes and, you know, our tribe, and so I feel like
I was counting the arches. I see 1, 2, 3, 4, and 2 X's right in there.
I usually run around with rooster tail limbs.
I was just following the line of leaf disturbance running down through here.
This used to be where I had my feet
Wonder why. I miss you. They put the wire up. That's cool. That's what the wire means, is friendship.
Kind of like on its side, right there. And another one right there. Another one just beyond the broken tree there.
That's probably pinned. If we walk down there, I'd almost lay $1. That's a pinned arch.
The end of it is, it's underneath.
Anything stuck with branch. It might do this in 2 parts too. Really good. Yeah,
Down lower. It's stuck in between. There's one stuck in between.
I got feet all over the place, young ones. Let's look on the ground.
Well, you can see the trail walking out right there. Look at the depressions in the leaf litter right there. You can see the footprints running through it.
And nobody's sitting here. This is not used for sitting here.
We're taking left here. So we've got one to our right, about 2 or 3 o'clock. Probably about 10 foot away.
I just caught a little eye over there.
Little Asher?
Yeah.
Right in behind us, up there.
One up here, look at the path. Oh, I can see it. It's right here on the corner. Just on, as we make this curve, there's a little bit of brush right here. It's just on the other side of it is where I feel it. There's somebody at that nest, that tree. Might not. Depends what time you're in. Hide your eyes, babies.
I did not notice that right there earlier.
The big X right there?
No, right there.
Oh, this.
Those lean-to, right, I didn't notice those earlier. They're right there.
Mm-hmm.
They may have been there, I just didn't notice it.
I remember the eggs.
Heard a grunt right here. And there's a flash back in the back.
Flash.
A flash of light. Way back. As far as I can see through these streets.
There shouldn't be any houses over there.
Black pitch right here.
Travel 30 yards away.
There's kind of real. It was a small grunt or huff or nothing.
Rich, you might want to cut across the front of me just when it's soft over there. You need that tree being down, do you?
No, it wasn't down when we came through here before.
No.
It's been pulled down.
Roots and all. We just walked this.
Huh. That's strange.
Really didn't even take up the roots.
They just pushed it over.
I'm trying to find out what's going on.
Usually that's trying to, they usually do that trying to block a path so you don't walk in on it. There's a path right there.
And that's where all those geometrics were that you caught earlier.
Yeah.
Okay guys, we promise we won't.